If we could address you directly right now.
Everything comes full circle.
That's number one.
I don't tell him what questions to ask me.
There are a lot of people around town that have the same question.
Brush my teeth. I'm a good watch in the morning.
I can't confirm or deny.
You know, just keep going a little bit longer here, Mike. You keep going a little bit longer.
University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
That is right. This is Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN Radio Syracuse 97.7, or you're watching us on QSportsTalk.com. Welcome in to our third show of the semester. We are back, full squad here. Griffin Bloomstein talking. We have Jaslyn Salinas and Timmy Weiss with me as well. It is Thursday, February 20th, 2 p.m. on the dot. How are we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy to be back. Was a little sick for a couple weeks, and now I'm just trying to fight through this cold, but I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you back, Jazz, because, Jazz missed our last show, had a little bit of a voice problem. You kind of need your voice to be on the radio,
That's
so
right. Yeah.
thankfully.
Really?
Yeah, no, really, I know. It's pretty surprising. But, yeah, I'm doing well as well, and glad to be on the show today and talk a lot of Syracuse sports.
How you feeling, Griff?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready to talk some Syracuse sports. It's been an interesting time for Syracuse sports just altogether. Syracuse basketball mostly down. The women's team played really well in their last game. They have a big game tonight we'll touch on. Syracuse women's lacrosse has started off blazing hot against some good competition. And then Syracuse men's lacrosse obviously started the season off strong. Go down to College Park, did not play too well. I was about to say South Park. We were talking about South Park. But they went down to College Park, lose to Maryland, and then they have a big game on Saturday against Harvard, who just lost to Colgate. So there's so much to talk about. Crossover season, lacrosse, basketball. But let's start with basketball. Timmy, 5 straight games. Syracuse has allowed 80 points. First time since the 1981-1982 season. Does it stop?
I don't know, Griffin. Honestly, I don't know, because the thing about this Syracuse defense this year, it is historically bad. Like, we aren't fully if you haven't got it yet, this Syracuse defense has been one of the worst Syracuse defenses in the entire program's history. I mean, it's unbelievable to be second to last in the ACC in points per game that you're allowing, nearly 80 points per game. And that stat you just said right there, Griffin, kills me. I mean, that is unbelievable. 1982, that's 20-plus years before all of us were even born. It's crazy. The defense, there's so many problems. I don't even know where to start. But I don't know. What do you think, Jazz?
I have to agree with Timmy. This has been a very, very devastating season. But I don't want to knock the team too hard. I think that their effort is there, 100% effort, but they're lacking in so many other areas. Like, they do get on that court, and I feel like they do play as hard as they can, but it's like a lack of talent, honestly, a little bit. Like, I really think it's almost that saying where it's like hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Have you guys ever heard of this saying?
Yes.
Sure.
Like, I feel like they're working hard and the talent's lacking, and it's just like they're not doing well. But I think that this team has definitely been disappointing, to say the least.
It's hard because you look at the stats, and Syracuse allows just around 79 points a game. And then you look at where that places them in all of Division I, and it's 325th. There's only Iowa, Miami, Florida, and Alabama, and UCF that are power conference teams that allow more points.
Alabama.
And Alabama's the top.
They're the second-ranked team in the country, or top 5 team in the country right now, which that's pretty unbelievable.
And so they play at a high pace and score a lot of points, but those are the only 4 teams in power conferences that allow more points than Syracuse, and it's just like, okay, you're 2 years out of the zone. The zone's been gone. But now, all of a sudden, you play Pitt, and you're mixing in that zone back, and it's kind of what they've been doing the whole season. But it's just like, where did this team go wrong? You look at the players on this team, it's like, okay, none of these players are good defensively.
None of them. And that was the case since the beginning of the year. This has been a problem that's been going on since game 1. Mm-hmm. You gave up over 80 points to Lemoyne.
And then you go out and give 95 points to Youngstown State in triple overtime.
Granted, it was double overtime, but still, I mean, Youngstown State over 90 points. And the other thing also that still hasn't changed is the fast break defense is still really bad. That was a problem we were talking about very early in the year, and it still hasn't been fixed. There's been zero answer.
I think what's most almost haunting this team and the Orange fans and me specifically is that we have players like Eddie Lampkin and JJ Starling putting up points for this team. Eddie Lampkin in the UNC game put up 26 points, but it's like his efforts are wasted when there's no one defensively helping this team.
Yeah.
It just feels like these players are putting up these points, but for what?
Yeah.
For what?
It's hard when you don't play both sides of the ball. When you don't play a complete basketball game, you're not going to win. And that's been the problem. Syracuse hasn't played a full 40 minutes, I would say, for the whole season. They haven't played a complete half on both sides of the ball almost the whole season. And I think just those 3 games at the start, against Lemoyne, against Colgate, against Youngstown State, you beat Lemoyne and Colgate by a combined 6 points. And then you go to double overtime with Youngstown State by 9 points. And you win by 9. As you look at those 3 games, it's like, okay, wow, how did Syracuse fans, how did the media, how did everyone just not see this coming? You take those 3 teams, barely wins. Those were foreshadowing events, and people thought, oh, it's just a slow start. They haven't played together. No. That was the sign for Syracuse basketball, and that's exactly how this season's played out. You play NC State, you have a week off. Syracuse played on Tuesday against Pitt. They play next Wednesday against NC State. There's 8 days. Those 8 days, you have all the preparation to play NC State, and if you lose against NC State, you are in true worriness of not making the ACC tournament.
Yeah, NC State, one of the worst teams in the entire ACC. I mean, if you lose that game, that is just sad. It's just sad if you lose that game. After 8 days of rest as well, I do want to circle back, though, to your point, Griffin, about not being able to play a full 40 minutes. And, Jazz, you were saying earlier in the show that, Syracuse is bringing the effort to every game. I think it's hard for us to say if Syracuse is bringing the effort or not in every game. But the fact that they don't play a consistent 40 minutes in any game this season is the reason why I'm having trouble believing if they truly are bringing the effort in every game. Because there's only been 2 games this year. Listen to this, guys. There's only been 2 games this year that Syracuse has won both halves in a game. 2 games. And that is against Georgia Tech and also against, it was one game earlier in the year. I'm forgetting the team right now. But
I think it was
that's unbelievable.
Bucknell.
Maybe Bucknell. But I think it's unbelievable.
Or rather, UAlbany. But the point, Bucknell, somehow they tied a half with Bucknell. But the point is, if you win both halves, you win the game. I mean, that's the success. So the philosophy should be, all right, let's just attack this half. How do you start a game strong? You play defense. That's when your effort should be the highest, when you have the most energy.
And I think that was the case against Pittsburgh, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it was. That's why they
good.
played well. That's why they led at the half. And why they were up by 16 at some points in that first half. And then Syracuse fell apart. Pitt went on a run. I mean, you look at the second half score sheet, 46-28. But to me, you said defense is the problem. Yes, defense is a problem, but the whole team is a problem. Like, there's nothing you can do at this point for Syracuse basketball. Now, the ACC tournament, you have to make the ACC tournament. People that say, oh, the ACC tournament doesn't matter, it does matter. Because if you don't make it, then it's just another chip on that shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so many low points of the year, and that would be the only thing that somehow brings it lower. But
I agree.
I mean, it's just, I hope it doesn't get to that case. Like that, I mean, that's crazy low.
Yeah.
If you don't even make the ACC tournament, only 3 teams don't make the ACC tournament. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think having this conversation in itself is really upsetting. The fact that we're even questioning whether or not we could see Syracuse even make it to the tournament. But just to circle back to your point, Griffin, on it's not just the defense, I somewhat agree with that. I think that I mentioned previously we have players like Eddie Lampkin and JJ Starling putting up these points. But I just want to touch a little bit on the fact that, I think overall, Syracuse in clutch moments, it's struggles.
They can't do it.
They can't do it. It's poor organization on the court. It's the coaching. It's defense. And honestly, I think it's JJ Starling as well, playing a little bit. He takes so much control of the game, which is needed at points. But it's he often plays tunnel vision. It's with blinders. It's almost mirroring Judah Mintz last year.
It happens. JJ had 5 turnovers against Pitt. And Jaquan Carlos was in the starting lineup playing point guard because Elijah Moore was out. So Jaquan was running the point, but JJ still had 5 turnovers. And in college basketball, you can have it where you have 2 guards that dominate, and that's the way most teams play. It's a guard dominated. Basketball's just guard dominated these days. But then you look at there's no clutch, there's no X factor. Tyus Battle was at the game the other day, and Tyus Battle was one of Syracuse's most clutch players. The 3 seasons he was on the Hill were great. That was what Syracuse should be. That's where Syracuse should always be. And Tyus Battle had his moments where he was hitting buzzer beater shots, where he was getting Syracuse's wins single-handedly. There's no Tyus Battle on this team.
I think JJ, you could make the case that he's the only guy that can do it, but everyone else, it's not going to happen.
JJ can't do it. He's not nowhere near the level of Tyus Battle.
He's done it though in some games.
He's
this
had
year.
Flashes, but there's no consistency, and half the part of a clutch player is consistency.
Yeah, a clutch player is someone you can depend on every single time to come through.
But no one is able to come through every single time. That's simply impossible.
But more often
even
than
LeBron
not.
James,
More
often than not. And
JJ Starling is not that player.
No.
Yeah, and that's why Syracuse loses every game pretty much this year.
That's why this whole pattern continues on. Syracuse just happens to find a way every time to lose the game.
And it almost makes you think. Syracuse Athletics announced this $50 million fundraising commitment. They want to raise $50 million, help the student athletes, help the facilities, just bring back winning to Syracuse Athletics in general. And one thing, the offseason's 4 games away. Syracuse has 4 games left in the regular season. Maybe one game in the ACC tournament, maybe 2, if they can miraculously win 1.
I'd be shocked.
But then it's offseason. The world of college basketball moves quickly. Players enter the portal right after they lose, right after the final game. And so it will be interesting to see what happens with that. Syracuse has a general manager for the first season. Alex Klein was brought in. He worked for the Knicks. He came over, I think in the fall. So he wasn't there when Eddie Lampkin came in from the portal. When Lucas Taylor, when all those guys came in from the portal. So you have a GM that is recruiting, that is will be working in the transfer portal when that opens. And so when guys do enter the transfer portal, it's a whole new season. Syracuse, Adrian Autry doesn't have to be 100% focused on the portal and playing. He can let Alex Klein do that. And so I think that will set Syracuse up. Syracuse announced today they're going to, if revenue sharing comes out, they'll be spending all $20.5 million.
So you're hopeful?
I'm hopeful.
For next season?
You have a top 10 recruiting class. You have to be hopeful.
I'm just a little worried about everyone transferring.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's the question. What will happen? And nobody will know until that eventually happens. And so it will be, I love off seasons. I just love off season talk. Especially in this season where it's not going well. Mm-hmm. Can't wait till that happens. And so Syracuse has a lot of decisions to make. Obviously, there's going to be a need for a center. Eddie Lampkin's going to be gone. Point guard, you have 4 freshmen coming in. What does Syracuse do in the transfer portal? And only time will tell. And I guess we're coming up on our first break here on Newhouse Afternoon. We'll be right back on ESPN Radio Syracuse 97.7. But if you want to chat with us during the commercial break, you can catch us on QSportsTalk.com. Thank you. Alex Klein to the rescue.
Can I have my water too? Thank you.
I don't know, dude. I think everyone's leaving. Actually.
Yeah. And then what kind of players are we going to attract?
Syracuse is a big enough name. They'll get somebody. Syracuse. Hopefully the name means something. But You can only hope. I mean, I just love, like, when I was, like, younger, just playing video games, just playing, like, NBA 2K and just being, like, the GM. So, like,
yeah, you've explained this to us before.
Yeah.
I'm just,
I feel like Griffin always gets on this tangent in our shows. Just like,
well,
I just love
I wish I didn't have to. Which I didn't have to. I'd love to be talking about how Syracuse was the bubble team or in the tournament.
True.
In the bracket talks, but nope. So the only thing I can talk about right now is the bubble of the transfer portal.
Who put that down? What does this mean, Griffin?
Oh, Griffin did.
What? The first?
The first one, yeah. What does that mean?
Oh, because Jazz wrote something else.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. Now, I'm excited. I mean, you look at this team, who's on the team right now, who's going to be back. You have no idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of uneasy, though, you know?
Coach Autry was on Orange Nation right before this, and he was saying that Donnie's surgery went well. And I think he said he's in the weight room already, so it's good.
That's actually really
good for him.
Good.
And then Elijah Moore, he said expect him to be back against NC State. So
okay.
I'm so intrigued too by Chance Westry. Like where's he floating around?
He just doesn't do anything.
He just doesn't do anything.
Not gonna lie.
I wonder if
Chance
he's gonna
Westry,
pop out next season.
He'll be one of the.
You know?
I mean, he'll be one of those players that Syracuse fans look back in like 10 years and be like,
"Yo, remember that guy?
Remember that guy, Chance Westry?"
Yeah, that's a good point. Low key.
What is he doing?
Yeah, like what is he up to?
No, yeah. I mean, Jaquan Carlos gone.
Everyone knows Noah Lobdell more than Chance Westry.
Yeah.
I'd argue.
I do think that's true.
There's so many players that are leaving on his team. Jaquan Carlos is gone. Jair Davis is gone. Eddie Lampkin's gone.
I think if you ask like a person at Syracuse,
okay,
do you know? I'm serious. I'm not even joking.
I think if I
ask
it's Chance Westry. Chance Westry
at Syracuse at school here, and I was like, do you know Noah Lobdell or do you know Chance Westry?
I bet the average person probably couldn't tell you either of those names.
Yes, but if I don't know actually.
The average Syracuse
student,
university student, would not be able to tell you.
Everyone knows Noah Lobdell.
No, either of those names. But if this team was in the tournament, maybe people could tell you both of those names.
They could not tell you Noah Lobdell from making the tournament. Or
so
Chance
you're saying
Westry.
There's a better chance now?
Or Chance Westry either, because neither of them play.
Chance Westry played like 2 games.
Yeah, like for 2
like
minutes.
How many minutes?
Mm-hmm. Not enough.
You think he should be playing more?
Kyle, I mean, this team is just so
I don't.
No.
Weird.
Yeah, it is pretty weird.
Eddie Lampkin's the most consistent player on this team, and I feel like you can't knock Eddie Lampkin at all. I mean, 10-9, 11-9. That's exactly. He's putting up better numbers than he did last season. You can't.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
How far did Wubba go last year?
They made it to the round of 32. Lost to UConn. It's a good game. My family was at that game.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Your mom and dad?
And my sister.
Oh, nice. It's cool.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tim, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today, broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back into Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7. Timmy Weiss alongside Jazeline Salinas and Griffin Bloomstein. We just talked a lot about the Syracuse men's basketball team, which, well, is not doing too well if you didn't know that already. The Syracuse women's basketball team, on the other hand, has taken a big step back from last season. But the season's still going on, and, the ACC tournament is coming up. They've showed a little bit better of signs recently, and they're taking on number 9 North Carolina tonight in the Dome at 6. Obviously a huge game for this team, guys. they're coming off a good performance against California. Do you think that momentum takes them to maybe make this game a little close?
I think so. I think, it was their first time out in the Bay, the West Coast. Kind of had a rocky start with Stanford, but quick turnaround. Yeah, they lost to Cal, but it was a pretty good game. Georgia Woolley led in scoring 23 points. You had Kyra Wood putting up on the board, Sophia Burrows. I really think overall this team performed really well, and I think if Coach FLJ can really crack down on their mistakes from that previous game, I do think they could, kind of capitalize on that momentum here, and especially in the Dome.
So you think it's going to be a close game today?
I think, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I have
Syracuse-
some hope. I have some hope for Syracuse.
Syracuse has their last ranked test against NC State was only an 8-point loss.
That was in the Dome as well, right?
And that was the start. That was in the Dome, yes. And that was the start of Syracuse's, I think, best 5 games of the season. You lose against NC State only by 8. You beat Clemson on the road, come back to the Dome, a short and close loss to Virginia, beat Virginia Tech on the road, and then you beat Wake Forest at home. The defense locked down the Demon Deacons there. And then you go out west, and it's kind of like, okay, what does Syracuse have? First West Coast trip, how do they adjust? And then you get pummeled by Stanford, who was kind of in the same boat as Syracuse. It's kind of a rebuilding year, no Cameron Brink, legendary coach retires, and it's like, okay, what does Stanford got? And then they beat Syracuse by a lot. And then Cal, make the short drive to Cal, and Syracuse played really, really well in that first half. And then in the second half, you start strong, and then towards the end, Syracuse not falls apart, but didn't play well in crunch time. Cal wins that game.
It was tied going into the fourth quarter of that game. Really, I think there was 8 minutes left, and it was a tie game. Syracuse was going neck and neck with Cal, team 9-5, good team in the ACC. So it's definitely very encouraging.
Yeah, I mean,
they totally fell apart at the end.
They put up a good fight over there in the West Coast, and I think coming back and playing in the Dome is going to have some significance of an impact for this team.
It's going to be tough. North Carolina, only 4 losses on the season, one of the best teams in the country. Usually that's the men's team for North Carolina, but this year it's flip-flopped. Men's team not doing great. Women's team, obviously, they're the 9th team in the country, so they're doing something right. But 2 of their losses have come to top 5 teams, UConn and Notre Dame. Those, I think, 2 of the best 3 teams in the country. The other was to 25th ranked Georgia Tech. So it's a ranked loss. Can't really say much about that.
ACC team. Yeah.
Another good ACC team. And then a 2-point loss to Florida State, a team that made the tourney last year, returned a lot of good players, and Florida State only has 6 losses. So all 4 of their losses, there's no bad losses there. And so Syracuse, it's going to be tough.
It's definitely going to be tough. One thing that Syracuse is going to have to do a good job of is being able to attack the North Carolina defense, which is really where the Tar Heels thrive. They allow under 60 points per game. So I don't know. Do you think there's anything the Syracuse scorers can do to, get started and, put some points on this North Carolina gauntlet of a defense?
Yeah, I mean, UNC got out-rebounded by a large margin. It was about 40-21 against NC State. And so I think if SU can kind of keep them off the glass and capitalize on those mistakes of the Tar Heels, I think that could have also some significance for the Orange.
Sophie Burrows had 7 points in the first half against Cal, and then only 3 in the second half. She got off to a hot start, and she was playing some of the best basketball of, I think, her whole career. She had 4 threes against Virginia, then 8 against Virginia Tech, and then she had 15 and 10 against Wake Forest. And then the West Coast, I don't know what the altitude out there, the 3-point shot wasn't falling.
Changed.
And then, so she comes back to the Dome. When Syracuse is playing its best, they are dominant down low, and they are raining threes from beyond the arc. When those 2 things happen together, Syracuse wins, or at least keeps it close against really good teams. And so for Syracuse to do that against UNC, it's going to be hard. Obviously, UNC one of the best teams in the country, but that's the recipe for success.
I think if Syracuse wants to keep this game close today, they have to do 3 things. Georgia has to have a really good game. Kyra Wood has to make an impact in the paint. And the 3-ball also has to be cooking. And if you don't do, even if you do 2 of those 3 things,
it's going to be really hard.
It's going to be really hard, and they might not even keep it close. You have to do all 3. And that's not going to be easy to do, to get all three of those things to happen. But with time winding down, I mean, you're getting towards the end of the season. I mean, they just had a good
stretch.
Loss, a good stretch. They've showed they can compete with some better teams in the ACC. Let's say Syracuse does make the ACC tournament. There is time left. They could still drop into the 3 places at the bottom. But let's say they do. Do you think there is any possibility that they make a little bit of a run in the ACC tournament?
I do. I think Syracuse has played all season. When they catch fire, they can keep it close or beat any team in the country. But Syracuse has to be on point when they play the top teams. And in an ACC tournament, when it's one and done, every game matters. And you're game planning for that one specific team. Syracuse should know that matchup for couple of weeks beforehand, and so it'll be about what the preparation is. How much emphasis does Coach Jack put into scouting the other team? What does Syracuse do differently in this game? And Syracuse has played a deep rotation the whole year. Coach Jack loves to play as many players as she can, and so does that change in the ACC tournament? Does she play her top players? So it'll be interesting. I think when Syracuse is playing well, they can compete with anybody.
Anyone.
Yeah. Honestly, I think, with the loss of Deasia Fair leaving and kind of not knowing what the Orange was going to look like this season, I think they've done incredibly well. I definitely had my doubts without Deasia Fair, and so I think because they did so well, I think they can definitely make that run. How far, I don't know. I don't know if I have too much hope in how long they can last in the tournament, but I definitely think they can make a little run.
So you expected Syracuse to be worse this year than they are?
Than last year?
You said that Deasia Fair, with the loss of her, you thought that they're going to...
I definitely...
You thought they were going to be even worse.
Yes, I did. I did.
And before you say your prediction, Timmy, I mean, you look at Syracuse's top 2 scorers, Georgia Woolley and Kyra Wood. Kyra Wood transferred from Temple. Georgia Woolley obviously transferred with Coach Jack from Buffalo. Those 2 players were not power conference players at the start of their career. And so for them to be leading Syracuse, I mean, that tells you something. Then you have Sophie Burrows, obviously Australian, came over from Australia. So, not used to playing basketball in America. Isa Verjao, she transferred from Michigan. This team, the top 2 players were not power conference basketball players at the start of their career. And so for now them to be leading Syracuse in the ACC, one of the best conferences, if not the best conference in women's basketball, it tells you they can do it. They're good players. And so going up in the ACC tournament, assuming they make it, I think they can put up a fight with just about anybody.
I'm probably not as optimistic as you guys. I think they sneak into the ACC tournament, but probably the road ends there. It's just, there's too many good teams in the ACC, in my opinion. Well, we're up against a break here on Newhouse Afternoon, but when we come back, we got a lot of lacrosse to talk about. We'll talk about the Syracuse women's lacrosse team, who's on a red-hot start so far this year. But stick with us on Newhouse Afternoon at 97.7.
Water again?
Yeah.
Oh, you could see yours, by the way.
Oh, you can. Cool.
It's bothering Griffin.
Mine's always
It was bothering me.
It doesn't bother me.
It bothers me.
They know I'm hydrating. The 10 viewers we have. 13.
Are you excited for the hockey game tonight?
Super excited.
There you go.
So excited. I would have so wanted to do a segment on it, but that's all right.
It's okay. Talk. You can
It's gonna be a great game. I mean,
there's a
Charlie McAvoy's
Newhouse
not playing.
students over there covering
sad.
They are.
Geraldine and
What's that?
yeah.
I'm bummed out that Charlie McAvoy got injured. That was a very dirty hit. But I was about to say Syracuse. The US, they better win.
Dude, who is
US back on the top of the hockey
I'm forgetting his name. I think it was Biz. You know Biz?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was saying that if Canada loses, it's like a national, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a national disaster.
National disaster.
National disaster. Like, it will be uproar in Canada if they lose.
Well, They should. This is their sport.
Yeah, I know.
This is Canada's sport,
Imagine getting
and
beat
how
in
it
sport.
goes is the U.S. is going to prove that, just like it's called soccer, not football. Hockey is an American sport now.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly like the teams are like just really even. Even like Canada's offense is insane. Like
They have the best.
I mean,
I would say
people
they
that
have
didn't
the
make the team are
best 3 players in the country. McDavid
in the world. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Canada would have the best 3 players in Canada
Yeah,
too.
I would expect that.
No, they're very good.
It's just their goalie is the only weakness, and like you just need a good goalie in hockey.
Connor Hellebuck's the truth.
Yeah, Connor Hellebuck is the truth. I mean, America has. If Canada had any American goalie, they would be so much better.
Yeah, I mean Jeremy Swayman would be their best goalie instantly.
Yeah,
And he's the third?
Yeah.
Do you have plans
Canada's
to watch tonight with some friends?
Maybe.
Like-
I don't know actually. I might be busy. I don't actually no. I'll find time to watch.
You'd be busy. You're just hyping up this game.
I know, you're right. You're right.
Timmy's
8 o'clock.
Timmy's too busy to
All
watch this game.
I'll be watching it.
All of a
I have to
sudden,
watch it. I have to watch
You
it.
have to, right?
What it pains me though that Matthew
Such-
Tkachuk is like the hero of the U.S.
Yeah, it
'Cause
does
I
too. I hate
That guy. Matthew Tkachuk is my least favorite NHL player. But I'm for America, so I guess I have to root for him.
You got it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Him and Sam Bennett.
well, now I'm glad Sam Bennett is just getting pummeled to Canada because, don't like that guy either. I just don't like the Florida Panthers.
Oh my goodness.
True.
Full of hate.
They've caused some
What are you
pain
talking
to
about?
they've caused some pain
don't
to
like
us
hate,
Bruins
but
fans.
We can for the Panthers.
The amount of pain,
Too much
suffering,
pain.
too much pain.
You know, I was at the game 7.
Really?
And, yeah, the
Oof.
Panthers Bruins. It was so sad.
Yeah, no, that was not a fun one.
Yeah. So sad.
Winning a season in NHL history, gone.
Yep.
But it's
Have
okay.
you ever been to a hockey game, Chaz?
Yeah, I've been to a Kings game.
Oh,
How
few
far
times.
is it? How far is that
Like
from?
an hour and a half.
Okay.
Kings. Forget the King. No, Drew Doughty.
Doughty.
Dowdy.
Yes. Jonathan Quick Prime was unmatched.
Drew Doughty was like my favorite player to play with at
Chell.
Chell.
Yeah.
Then he can't believe he's still in the league. He's only 35, but he has like a massive
He's
gap in
been
his
around
I know.
for
I like that he never
forever.
got it fixed. I think it's so cool.
He was probably just get knocked out again.
Yeah, fair.
But nah, the Kings
Alright.
are gross. Quick.
You're hosting, Griffin?
Doughty. Who's the forward on that team? Oh, Kopitar. Hanze Kopitar.
Kopitar, yeah. Yeah.
That team was gross.
Dude, they were really good.
.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
We have about 27 minutes left of Newhouse Afternoon. Griffin Bloomstein alongside Jaslene Salinas and Timmy Weiss here on ESPN Radio Syracuse 97.7. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. Let's get some more info about Syracuse women's lacrosse. A 3-0 start to the season, including a big top 10 win against Maryland down in College Park last weekend. And then on Tuesday, Syracuse backs up with a dominating 18-10 victory over the Big Red. I was once a Cornell fan.
You
Really?
were?
And
When
just-
was that?
Yeah.
I'm a Cornell hockey fan, but it was great to see Syracuse take down the Big Red. I was in the Dome. So was Timmy, actually, for that
Yeah.
game. And Syracuse played really, really well. Cornell put up a fight at the start, though. Big Red were winning 2-1. And then Syracuse was like, okay, let's take advantage of this
They
game.
turned on the burners really, really quick. I think it then became 12-3 all of a sudden early on in that second quarter, I think. It was unbelievable. The Syracuse scorers can just score all of a sudden. It's unbelievable how quick they can do it. And that momentum just carried them to the win. There was not really much else they had to do after that point.
I was quite impressed. After a rough day at the draw circle down in College Park, Megan Road was lights out in the first half, for the Orange. The second half wasn't amazing, but in that first half, Megan Rode was winning everything she had basically at the draw circle. Syracuse was up 13-6 after 2 quarters, and that was the start of just getting Syracuse advantage, get Syracuse on top of the Big Red and just not giving up.
And but that second half, I think we do have to talk about a bit. In the second half, the draw control was 10-3 for the Big Red. Now, it didn't matter, and honestly, I would say that's not a huge point because the game was already over at that point, but a little bit concerning because you're going to go into North Carolina and, well, it's going to be a lot harder of a game than the Big Red.
Yeah, I think when we started to see some rotations in that draw circle, you kind of expected there to be someone to dominate because Rode was kind of struggling a bit in that second half. So it kind of makes you wonder who's really going to take control of that circle because Rode wasn't too consistent in that game.
No. I mean, the first half was good, but then obviously the second half struggles. But the story of the Cornell game was just the domination at the attack. After some sloppy turnovers in the first quarter, Syracuse really honed in. And then there's just so many awards. There were so many players. Gracie Britton had her first career hat trick. Molly Guzik scored 2 goals and had 3 assists. Both were career highs. Carly Desimone had her first career goal. Emma Ward had another tremendous game. I mean,
Daniela Guyat also career high in saves.
Yep. And so Syracuse was just playing so free, and in a season where there were a lot of questions about this team. They lost so many very good players, so many starters that started from 2, 3, 4 seasons even. And so how does Syracuse step it up? Obviously, ACC, best conference in women's lacrosse. How does Syracuse fall into that? And so they've answered in the first 3 games.
Yeah, I think the blend of the veterans and the younger players and even the first-time starters has been so great for this team. It is so cool to see this team blend so well and honestly dominate against, or not dominate. I mean, they fell to Maryland at number 9, but really stay in the game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great to see everything's going well right now. But the test against UNC is really the defining point in the season.
On the road?
You can't even begin to explain how big this game is for this team to prove if they are truly a national championship contender or if they're below that level, that echelon. Because I think in women's lacrosse, there was kind of a top 4, maybe top 3 teams that are just
Boston College, Northwestern, and those 2 have really controlled it the past couple of years.
Right, and Syracuse has been right there.
They've been number 4. I mean, you make the Final Four 2 years in a row. Daniela Guyat has it on her cage, on her helmet, and it just says semifinal, because they've been there the past 2 years and haven't been able to beat BC. What's interesting, Syracuse goes down to Chapel Hill on Saturday. UNC didn't have classes today because they got over a foot of snow.
Oh my goodness.
In North Carolina?
In North Carolina. There was snow. So
Crazy.
at the basketball game last night, UNC, the president announced there was no classes today. And so the game Saturday, I'm not sure how fast the snow melts down in North Carolina, but I mean, North Carolina, especially Chapel Hill, they're not used to snow at all. So I'm not even sure they have the stuff to plow the field. So it'll be interesting. Maybe even though Syracuse plays in the Dome, used to that colder weather, maybe Syracuse has the advantage playing outside at Dorrance Field and could possibly upset the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think Syracuse is going to fall in this one because my main concern is the turnovers this year. Yeah. It's actually not the draw control. I think what was proved in the Maryland game is that they could lose the draw circle and still have a dominating win. They lost 16-12 in the draw circle against Maryland and still won comfortably, 15-9. So that's not the concern to me. The concern is the turnovers, and now you're playing against North Carolina, and you had 20 turnovers against the Big Red. I expect that to be even worse against North Carolina, and that's going to be a big problem. And that's going to lead to a ton of goals from North Carolina because their offense is devastating.
Their offense is good. Syracuse had 15 turnovers against Maryland, and then they backed that up with 20 against Cornell. I'm not really worried about the turnovers. Syracuse, they try to get too fancy at sometimes, which kind of causes those turnovers. But I think it's the same thing with the men's team. Both teams, they play fancy a lot, which
Yeah,
at
that's
some
no
points
doubt.
is good.
The ball movement's absolutely electric from both these lacrosse
It's
teams.
amazing to watch, but sometimes I feel like Syracuse can just hone it in, just make sure you get that clear. Make sure it doesn't matter how you get the clear, just get it. And then once Syracuse gets into their past their straining line, Syracuse is so lethal. And a lot of those goals that Syracuse had against Cornell were on the fast break, were in transition. And so Syracuse didn't even have that many opportunities to get their offense set, get their attack set. And so if Syracuse does that against UNC, maybe it's a little hard to run because it's a little cold, snow not on the field, but around it, just impacting the atmosphere. It's 11 a.m. start. So obviously 11 a.m. starts mean, all right, how are the players warmed up? Are they off? Did they just wake up 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago? Is Syracuse ready? And so that there's a lot of things that go into a cold game, early start. Whichever team is more prepared, whichever team is ready, whichever team starts strong, I think that's the team that wins.
And two very young teams as well is the other key. Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
No, I was just going to I think you're putting a great emphasis on the external factors to this game, but I just don't know if that's going to really help the Orange, because I think, playing devil's advocate, I could argue that the Syracuse women's lacrosse team is so used to playing inside. Yes, it's pretty cold, but the dome is not out. I mean,
70 and sunny in the dome.
Right. So I don't know if that's going to be that much of a factor.
We saw what happened in the Syracuse men's lacrosse game though this weekend against Maryland. Rainy conditions. I don't know if that affected them.
Right.
But they were an uncharacteristic game for the Orange. So
I agree. I think it might be the deciding factor when you have two of the best teams in the country, evenly matched, both young. Syracuse has veterans. Emma Ward and Olivia Adamson have been great this season. Casey Benoit on defense, even though she's a sophomore, she started most of last season. So there are veteran players on the Syracuse team. The youth has been tremendous. Alexa Vogelman, Gracie Britton, who's a junior, but hasn't been the star player that other players have. But I think Syracuse is in a very good position this season. I think way more so than we had even thought. I think
100%. I totally agree with that, Griffin. I think there was a lot of doubt going into this year, and that they might not even make it past the quarterfinals or maybe even into the quarterfinals. People were really down on this team, and what I've seen so far this year doesn't really add up to that at all.
A 6-goal win in Maryland, backing it up with an 8-goal win against the Big Red at home. A big test on Saturday against UNC. Opening draw for that one is at 11 a.m. down in Chapel Hill. But we have one more break here on Newhouse Afternoon. When we come back, we'll talk about the men's lacrosse team. You're listening to ESPN Radio, Syracuse 97.7.
Hey, this is former.
It's just clockwork. We get to a break and Jess coughs.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Are you still sick?
No, I'm not. I swear.
I was jealous. I saw.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you don't feel like the cold messes with you? Because I come in and I'm still rough throat and runny nose.
A little bit. No, I know what you mean.
The cold?
Yes.
Like the cold weather?
Like the cold weather.
That is what
a
I
runny
don't
nose.
feel sick, but
I always get a runny nose when I walk through the cold or something.
That is
So
what
annoying.
I think that's what the cold weather does.
Yeah,
that's
it's so
science.
annoying.
I know, but I'm just saying, you guys were are you still sick? No, I'm just it's freezing outside.
Been inside for a while though.
But still, I don't know. What were you gonna say? Cut you off.
No, I forgot. Oh, I was gonna say something about the women's basketball team going to the All-Star weekend when they were out in Cali. They made a trip to the All-Star festivities. I think it was Friday night.
I don't know.
Potentially.
Didn't know that actually.
I was jealous.
Did Max and Jordan go to that?
No, they did not.
Bummer.
But
Jordan was telling me that he was playing he wanted to play spike ball under the Golden Gate Bridge. He saw people playing spike ball there, and he thought it was the coolest thing ever. He couldn't stop talking about it. It's so funny.
The Golden Gate Bridge. Have you ever been to the Golden Gate Bridge?
How many times?
Maybe 3 times.
All right, Jazz has been to the Golden Gate Bridge 3 times.
Is it cool?
She's 3 times cooler than us.
Is it cool?
Yeah.
It is cool.
It is cool.
I'm much more cooler than you.
Coolest thing you've ever seen?
No.
What's the coolest thing you've ever seen?
Have you been to Alcatraz?
No. I know.
Warzone map?
No,
right there?
no, it's the prison.
Yeah, it's a Warzone map. In like the pod.
Jeez, Tim.
It is.
Did you know that before or after?
No, I knew that. I know
You
both.
knew what it was, and then you
Yes.
played the game, and you're like,
Yes,
oh.
exactly.
Okay.
I want to go to Alcatraz. I feel like Alcatraz is a
Yeah, that'd be
interesting
sick.
place.
I feel like Griffin would want to go there.
Do you go?
Just-
Do you
that
go
just,
there by
adds
boat?
up.
Well,
I
obviously.
don't know. I mean,
Well,
isn't it an island? Yeah.
Obviously,
You
you
go
go there
by
by
boat?
boat.
Dumb questions only. Just kidding.
But
Smart.
nah, that
question.
was
We got trivia coming up. Hopefully you're not that
Trivia.
stupid.
Is it?
Trivia. No, it's not trivia.
Or it's not trivia. It's juicer
Just some questions.
questions. Hopefully you're not that
how much
dumb.
time
So
are
are
you-
you're gonna be like, all right, like I like your answer better, right?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
but how much time do you want to give for that?
Actually, it's good. You should put us on the clock. 30 seconds.
Oh, I just meant in general, like the segment
Oh, okay.
itself.
We'll get back at around 46.
You could put us on the clock though and be like, you have 30 seconds.
We'll get back at like
Okay.
46,
So maybe at like
30, I think.
50?
And then 50 to what?
Or
You want to? Oh, we'll talk
wait.
about lacrosse for a little. We can just hop right into the trivia, honestly.
well,
Let's
I
like
mean,
touch on the men's team.
yeah,
Just
we
like
could
talk
touch on
about
it
like who
and
they're
then
playing.
Just bring it to the questions.
Who they're playing, and then you can go to the questions.
Yeah,
All right, fine.
we're out at 55:20, and you said we're going back in at what time? 47.
I think 46. There might be 47. Oh yeah, 47. I was wrong.
Yeah, you're good.
No, it's all good.
Yeah,
No
you're good.
way. Alcatraz. Let me look. Well, not that I'll ever get to Alcatraz. Tours. Alcatraz tours.
Bro, what? Like, why are you looking at Alcatraz tours?
Hey Jordan, you ever been to Alcatraz? Hey Matt, have you ever been?
Have you
Or Mike,
been
sorry.
to the
20
West Coast?
Have I?
No.
Or no? No.
Is that Mike in our ear?
The best coast.
David.
Is it?
Mike's in the studio.
Is it though?
It is the best coast.
Thank you.
Subaru.com.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN 97.7. I'm Jazzaline Salinas with Timmy Weiss and Griffin Bloomstein. We've talked a lot about basketball, Syracuse women's lacrosse, but now it's time to dive into men's lacrosse, who's actually been doing pretty well too.
Well, pretty well until that game against Maryland. I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to forget about that one.
It kind of disappointed me a lot, guys. I don't know how you're feeling about it.
All right, go for it. You're the most opinionative right now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say what
Opinionated.
my thing is, guys, is that after that game that you had against Maryland where you totally didn't show up in the second half, now that you're going to play against Harvard, number 15 team in the country, not,
they
not
lost.
a bad team, not a great team. They lost to Colgate. Are they really a top 20 team? I don't know. But I think the team, Syracuse, has to come out firing right from the get-go on Saturday. It's just a must. You have to come out, you show, no, that was a fluke against Maryland. You got to come out and you got to fire it up and you got to hit, at least 5-6 goals in that first quarter.
Wow, right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
I would say 5 would be disappointing. I would say 6 or 7, if not 8.
6 or
Give me
7?
10.
Okay,
Oh.
that's a little much. I mean, it's one quarter of lacrosse.
In the first quarter is usually when a lot of the scoring happens. You go back.
It's different in every quarter. I'd say,
The
but-
first and the third quarter statistically is where most of the scoring happens. Syracuse put up 6 goals in that first quarter against Towson. All right, this is a bad example of this game. But you look at Syracuse and the spot they're in. The Maryland just has Syracuse's number. Go back last season. Last season,
Haven't beat
overtime
Maryland.
loss.
Haven't beat Maryland since 2009.
It's true. And so you just have to throw that game away. Pretend it doesn't exist.
Yep, exactly.
You move on to Harvard. Crush them
you move.
because Syracuse can crush Harvard. Then you go to Utah, Syracuse can crush Utah, and then you have your biggest test against Johns Hopkins. But you just have to flush that game down the toilet, forget it existed, and the offense needs to click. The defense and Jimmy McCool and net were solid. The offense did not click. 7 goals for Syracuse men's lacrosse in 2025 should never happen again.
Yeah.
Syracuse is, I said they were the best team in the country, and they kind of disappointed me. 7 goals in one game. Even though Joey Spallina had 4 points on 7 goals, I want to see more. I want to see
point in the second half.
I want to see more from Joey. The offense runs around him. When he's facilitating, when he's distributing the ball, that's when Syracuse is at its best, and it wasn't happening against Maryland. Maryland's goalkeeper lights out. That guy was just saving everything, and so you have to give credit to him. But then again, Logan McEnany is not the only player that decides the game. It's Syracuse that decides the game. How good are they going to be? And so going forward, they need to be better.
I agree. Honestly, I think there's a lot of things that we could kind of pick apart in the Maryland game. And speaking of which, I want to ask you guys, where do you see potential weaknesses in Syracuse's game that might,
is this the first?
Harvard, yeah.
So we're into a trivia segment right here.
First little question of this little segment. Where do you see potential weaknesses in Syracuse's game that Harvard might exploit?
Should I start?
Sure,
Go for it.
Timmy. Take it.
Okay. I think the biggest potential weaknesses in Syracuse game right now is at the faceoff dot. I think that's the one spot where they're not nearly as good as they were last year. Losing Mason Cone, it's not the same. And when you play against the best teams, I don't put Harvard in that spot. I don't think Harvard is one of the best teams, but I still think, Harvard could end up being pretty even on the faceoff circle with them. And what that means is that the game is going to be closer than it would normally if you had someone really good in the faceoff dot. So it's just such an important thing in lacrosse to be good in the faceoff circle. And Syracuse is not as good this year as they were last year.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
Well, let's just fact check that. John Mullen is close to 60% on the season.
That's not that good.
What do you mean that's not that good? 60%?
They've played against Towson. They've played against Jacksonville and Vermont. Teams that you're way better than. You should. I'm talking about the big matchups, and now they're playing
against Towson. He went 17 for 25
Yeah, and it was against Towson.
Towson is a ranked team. Towson played you close in the NCAA tournament last season.
It wasn't that close.
Last season in the NCAA tournament, it was closer than it should have been.
So Griffin, you don't think face-offs is the weakness? Is there another weakness? Is there another potential weakness? Is this team just perfect?
This
Obviously
team,
not,
as much as I would like to say they're perfect, they're not. The one part of Syracuse that I want to see be better is execution offensively. Get out of this. I don't care how many behind the back goals you do. I care about how many balls go in the net. And for Syracuse, against Maryland, when you try to get flashy, it doesn't always work. Now, I love a good BTB goal, a good between the legs goal as much as the next guy. But at the end of the day, that's not what matters. At the end of the day, the winning team wins the game, and Syracuse needs to be that winning team. If you want to have a BTB goal and you're up by 5, sure. But when you're down, just put the ball in the net.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think face-offs is our biggest weakness. I do think it's something that we can
work on. The offense is one of the best in the entire country still, even after the game out.
But at the end of the day, it's about getting those points up, getting the ball in the net.
All right, let's get to the next question.
Next question, we ripped kind of Syracuse's weaknesses apart, but let's kind of focus on the positives here.
Okay.
Griffin, who has been the key player so far, in your opinion, in these last few games?
The last few games, Syracuse has had a lot of good players. I got to give them credit. But the one guy that I am going to give some credit to is Jimmy McCool. You can't have asked much more from Jimmy McCool so far this season. He's saving 62% of his shots. He's only allowing 7 goals per game against Maryland, a top 10 team in the country. You only give up 7 goals. That should probably win you most games. 7 against Towson, 5 against Jacksonville. Syracuse has played well. Jimmy McCool, a lot of questions. You're replacing Will Mark, one of the best goalkeepers in Syracuse history. Jimmy McCool has done a really good job.
Timmy?
I honestly would just give it to the defense as a whole. I'd say the defense as a whole has been fantastic this year. I mean, other than in the game against Maryland, you only give up 11 to Maryland. That's pretty solid against a now the number 2 team in the country. Only give up 11. That's not bad at all. In the other games, you gave up barely anything. So the Syracuse defense has been absolutely locked in. Griffin, I think it's more the Syracuse defense than Jimmy McCool right now. I think Jimmy McCool hasn't been overly tested yet, so he hasn't had to prove anything yet.
Okay.
In my opinion, I'd say just the Syracuse defense in general.
All right, Jazz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we said execution is something that this is a weakness. So I got to give it to Timmy saying that the defense is top notch right now, and I got to go with Timmy's answer.
All right.
I think he's got
How
it.
about before we head off here in 20 seconds, let's give score predictions. The closest, whoever's the furthest away, will have to get the punishment.
All right.
I'll go
I like
first. 21-12. 10 seconds, Tim.
23 to 10.
I'll do 20 to 14.
All right. Thank you so much for listening and watching with us on QSportsTalk.com. The Cody Mack Show is coming up.
This is Orange Nation.
Head cheese. You know what that is, Steve? You ever had head? It's pretty good.
Let me guess, Steve. No, you haven't eaten head cheese.
Steve would not eat head cheese if it was put